Hi everyone, hope we're doing well. This is James from Divine Crochet. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I want to redesign the first crochet bag that I ever fully designed by myself, because there's a lot of beginner mistakes that I made whilst trying to create this design that I think would be quite helpful to share. So at this current point in time, I've already created the bag. So let's go right to the beginning when I started to design this piece. To my recollection, this is the first crochet piece that I ever fully designed by myself. And I really enjoy how this bag looks, but I ended up only wearing it a few times. And this is because all the decisions that I made were purely based around the aesthetics of the bag, and I really didn't consider how the choices would affect the functionality of the bag. So for today's video, I thought I would take you guys through the process of me redesigning this bag with more knowledge surrounding stitches and what they're good for. Let's just first talk about the things that I enjoyed about the bag that I made. It's a small bag, which is what I wanted, and it's able to fit a few things in. But the one thing that I want to say here is the bag that I designed today, I think I want to make a little bit bigger, just because I found the few times that I did use this bag, it almost felt like I was cramming things inside the bag. And then on top of that, I like the idea of what I was trying to achieve with the construction of the bag when it came to the shape of the flap and obviously all the jewelry that I added. So I think that was pretty cute. But let's go on to the things that we need to change. Problem number one is the bag strap. I would say this is probably the biggest issue. So I picked double crochets for my bag strap, and this wasn't a good idea because double crochets actually have a lot of stretch. And obviously once you start to use the bag, there's going to be weight put on this strap. So you need to be using a stitch that's going to be able to handle this pull. And this was a problem with the straps of the bag, but also the body of the bag, because anytime I put anything heavy like keys in the bag, the single crochets would stretch out. I also made this bag quite hard to access because it has a necklace attached. I don't even know what it's called. I decided to use a clasp like you would use for a necklace. That's not something that I necessarily need to change, but something that I'm just not going to do this time round. And then on top of that, I feel like I could have picked a better yarn size and hook size as well. So my first step in this process is to design kind of the steps I want to take to make this bag. And I also want to pick the right yarn and hook size. I've decided that I want to first off create a bag strap. But this bag strap is not only going to extend for the length of the bag strap, it's also going to act as kind of either side of the bag. And then I'm just going to make a single crochet panel and attach it to this bag strap. And then furthermore, I want to add a flap to the front, and I think I want to use a moss stitch for that. And then I'm going to add my charms at the end, but I'm not sure whether I want to add them directly onto the bag. I might actually make kind of like a keyring accessory instead, but that's my idea at the moment. We're first going to start off by making the bag strap, and then we'll go from there. As for the materials that I'm going to use to create this bag was originally made from what I'm presuming is double knit yarn, which is probably not the smartest choice because the fabric ended up being quite stretchy and thin. So if I use chunky yarn, my fabric's going to be a lot thicker and probably a little bit more sturdy because it will have less drape. And then on top of that, I want to reduce down my hook size from a 6mm, which is probably what I would normally use, down to a 5mm, and this will just create a denser fabric that's less likely to stretch out. And even before we change any of the stitches, the fact that I use a chunky yarn and a small hook size means that my bag is already going to be more functional, because the fabric that I create is going to be thicker and sturdier, and it's going to have a lot less stretch. But for the bag strap, I want to use a Tunisian crochet bag strap, which doesn't have a lot of stretch. So to create this Tunisian stitch bag strap, we're going to start off with a slip knot, and we're going to start by chaining a total of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to skip this first stitch here and pick up a loop from this stitch here. So if you want, you can go through the back V like this, but personally I like to go into the back bump, which is this part of the stitch back here. So I'm going to insert my hook, pull up a loop, and then do that for the next 3 available chains. So that's the second chain, this will be the third chain. So now I have a total of 5 loops on my hook. So this is the one that I started off with and I pulled up these 4. What we're going to do now is I'm going to yarn over and pull through one of these loops, like that. So I should still have 5 loops on my hook. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops until I have 1 loop on my hook. So yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So you do that a total of 4 times until you have just 1 loop left on your hook. If we look, we have these vertical loops right here. This is going to be where we pull up our loops from. So our first one is here. I'm going to insert my hook like this. Then I'll pull up a loop and I'm going to do the same for all of them. So my next one is here. Then I've got one here. And you have this final one just here, but to create a neater side, I insert my hook, which would just be around this one loop. And then I find this loop at the back here. So this almost kind of creates a V. This is where I'm going to pull up a loop. So now I can yarn over, pull through 1, then yarn over, pull through 2, a total of 4 times. So I'll do that again just so we have a solid idea as to how to do this stitch. So first we're going to pull up a loop through each one of those vertical loops until we reach that final one where we put our hook under that vertical loop, then find a loop at the back. So our hook should go underneath 2 loops now. Then I can yarn over, pull up that final loop. So now I should have 5 loops on my hook. I'm then going to yarn over and pull through 1 before I then yarn over and pull through 2 to complete this row. And you're just going to continue this up until you reach the length of strap that you want. And I'm bearing in mind that part of my strap is going to be used within my bag design. Then we're ready to cast off this row. So what we're going to do is insert our hook where we normally do, pull up a loop and do a single crochet like that. And then I'm going to do a second one. Then I'm going to do a third one. And then I'm going to do my final one, which remember we're going to go underneath this loop, but then find this loop in a back to create a V like that. Yarn over, pull through, and then yarn over, pull through 2. I can now cut this yarn and finish this off by yarning over and pulling through the loop that's already on my hook. So I've just finished crocheting the back strap and I feel like it's quite common knowledge that this Tunisian crochet stitch is not stretchy. So that's kind of solved the problem of the bag strap. But at this point I'm ready to construct the body of the bag and I need to consider how to reduce the amount of stretch that there's going to be because that was a big problem with the original bag. Now I've already helped this because I've chosen a chunkier yarn and a smaller hook size, so my fabric is going to be a lot more dense and a lot less stretchy. And actually the single crochet stitch which I used in my original bag is a really good stitch to use for things that you want to have more structure. But the one thing I didn't consider whilst doing the first bag is the direction of these stitches. So this is just a panel of 45 single crochets and I started this off with a chain of 46, skipped a stitch and then did 45 single crochets a row. And if I stretch it sideways, you can see that there's just not an awful lot of stretch, but there's more stretch horizontally, and this is the direction in which the bag was facing. So anytime that there was something in the bag, gravity would just pull it down. But we can counteract this because, as I said earlier, there's not a lot of stretch horizontally. So if I just turn this around like this, any gravity or any weight in this bag is not going to affect the stretch of the fabric as much just because it's not as stretchy in this direction. I talk about this in detail in the video I created on how to pick the right stitch, so I'll leave that linked in the description below if you guys are interested. Anyway, how I'm going to construct this bag from now on is I want to put my strap kind of in between this panel here, and I'm going to continue crocheting a single crochet border to attach the strap and the body of the bag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and pin this this and show you what I'm working with before I start constructing everything. So each one of the straps starts off with 4 stitches, and if you remember, we have 45 stitches in each row. So this side has 1 extra stitch than this side. This is going to be the side where I build up the strap, and it's just going to sit a lot nicer if this is just like a tiny bit lower. So as you can see, I've used stitch markers to mark up the stitches where I want them to go, just to make sure they're nice and symmetrical. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to count up these stitches and pin them on the strap, just so I know where I'm starting off. So I'll show you here. This is my longer side, and this is going to sit 1 stitch above this stitch. If you want these to line up, just go ahead and do that. But anyway, I'm going to do this to the other side, and then I'll be ready to start crocheting everything together. I'm just kidding. I can't find any more stitch markers, so we're actually just going to start crocheting now. Basically what I'm going to do is every stitch that I matched up, I'm going to go through both stitches and do a single crochet all the way around here. So it's the next day. This is what we're working with, and not gonna lie, it's turned out really cute. So what ended up happening is I attached the panel to the strap using single crochets. So I would work my way around one corner and then did a row of single crochets all the way around the back strap to the other side, and then attached this side and then did the same thing to travel back to the start. So I want to use a single crochet instead of a moss stitch. Kind of had this idea of maybe potentially adding some buttons and doing kind of like a diagonal thing with that. But I don't know, these kind of decisions I do kind of keep open till I do them right at the end, because I feel like if I make too much of a solid plan, I'll end up doing something that doesn't necessarily work. But yeah, my goal now is I'm gonna cast on a row of single crochets on the back of my bag. This is probably gonna be my final update before I show you guys the finished product. I actually decided to stick with my initial plan of using a moss stitch, but still doing that diagonal decrease. A single crochet is not going to have the same drape, and the flap of this bag is quite honestly the only place that I can get away with using a stitch just for its aesthetic and its texture. Whilst crocheting this flap, I also included a hole because I decided that I wanted to add a few buttons. I got a few miscellaneous buttons from a charity shop, so I thought I'd use them today because they've been sitting in my collection for quite some time. What I need to do now is I need to add a border to the decreases that I was doing, because it's created this scalloped kind of bumped edge, which I'm not really a fan of in this design. So I'm just going to run some single crochets over that to make a nice clean line. And then on top of this, I think I want to make like a small detachable pocket that I can put on one of the straps, but I'll keep you guys updated with what I actually end up doing. So now for the moment you have been waiting for. The bag is now completely done, and I've sewn everything in and it's all nice and completed. But first, let's go through everything that I did in between my last update and now. So I actually ended up changing the shape of the flap yet again, because I didn't really like how the pointiness of the flap kind of looked, because I feel like if it hit like right at the bottom of the corner of the bag, it would actually be quite a cool design. But like once I started to add all of my edges to my bag flap, I kind of realized that this pointy shape just didn't really work for this bag, so I ended up frogging it all the way up to where the bag finished. And then I went ahead and added my borders and sewed in all of my ends. And then finally I sewed on a few buttons. I also made this little detachable pouch which will be able to go on the bag, but I also thought it'd be really cute to just put on like jeans. Especially with summer coming up, I think I would use this quite a lot, so I think I'm gonna make a few more in different colors. If you guys want a written pattern for this or a video tutorial on it, please let me know, because I definitely do want to make a few more, so it probably won't actually be that much effort for me to do so. And that was my final step, so let's have a look at how the bag turned out. So this is what it looks like without the pouch, but I'll put the pouch on just so you guys can see kind of what I was going for. So as you can see, the thicker yarn just made everything a lot less stretchy. I could definitely put quite a lot in this bag, and I'm pretty sure it wouldn't stretch out. And then this is what the flap looks like. Obviously I I've attached these two buttons to make everything more secure. And not gonna lie, I think using this moss stitch was a really good idea because it's added a lot of texture to the design. I was gonna do all of this bag in single crochets and that would have just looked a little bit more plain. And because I'm using one color of plain yarn and black buttons, I definitely wanted to add some different kind of elements to it to make it interesting. I think a beige version of this bag would be super cute, so I actually might have to make one. Obviously you guys know that crocheting clothes is kind of like my main thing, but I definitely dip in and out of loving to crochet bags, and not gonna lie, I feel like now I've made this one, I might have to make a few more. So I'm gonna finish the video here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Go check out my video on how to pick the right stitch for your next project, because if you really like to design your own crochet pieces, this is gonna be a really nice video for you to level up your designing capabilities. Make sure you are subscribed to this channel because I post new crochet content every week. And follow my TikTok, Instagram and Pinterest, which will be left in the description below. Also, I sell patterns on Ravelry and Etsy, which I will also leave linked in the description below. You guys have a good rest of your day and I will see you in the next video. Bye.